Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Elevate series. I am Amber Vilhauer, a books and business strategist, and today I want to introduce you to one of my most favorite humans, a real light worker and truth seeker and truth teller. His name is Ben Katt. He wrote the best-selling book, The Way Home. It is such a unique, fantastic, deep, honest read. And so it's my pleasure to introduce him to you today. We're going to get into some really, I would say, topics that maybe aren't normalized yet by society. But it is the truth of how many of us are feeling inside, especially at midlife. And I can promise you that I'm going to be really open and honest about my experiences of the hero's journey as Ben speaks about it. But Ben, just thank you for the work that you're doing in the world, and thank you for having the courage to use your voice in this way, in a way that most wouldn't. Your impact is definitely going to be infinite, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much, Amber. It's really fun to be on here. I've watched you do so many of these fantastic conversations, and now I'm actually in it with you. But thank you for the gift that you give people by providing this space. And thank you for your infinitely impactful role in my life in terms of helping me in this next phase of the work I'm doing. So much gratitude for you and the community of people that you've introduced me to.
Yeah. This is kind of like one of those cool stories too, if I could just share it publicly, that how I found Ben was actually through a website that I had designed for Chip Conley, and somebody within the MEA community who was a big fan of Ben bridged Ben and I together, and we weren't really sure what was going to unfold. And then it turns out that so many beautiful things unfolded, not just professionally, but personally. I mean, it is this man's fault that I got a puppy, just to say it. And many of you know, my new puppy's name is Benjamin, but I do want to be clear, he is not named after this Benjamin. My son
Yes.
came up with Benjamin, but it is like forevermore in this dog's life and the rest of mine, as we remember Benji, you'll be tied to that very personal part of my life, which is so cool.
I love it. Benji is a great dog's name. I remember from my childhood. So, way to go.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'd like to start, Ben, by putting you on the hot seat because it's fun for me to do that. So, do I have your permission to just go for the question that I really want to ask you
Yeah,
right up front?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. The question that I want to ask you the very most is, what is on your head and heart to share with humanity in this moment? And why I think that's such a big question is because it is such a soul accountability moment of like, with all of your lived experience, including where you are presently, which you can share if you
Mhm,
want
mhm.
to, and the interesting places that your work has taken you, even where you do meditations and where you're on faculty. I mean, you have an incredible lived experience on top of just everything in your history to get to this moment. So you have one of the most unique vantage points of anybody that I've met, and with all of that in you, if you had this like one microphone moment, what would you want humanity to know so that they can wake up?
Definitely the hot seat, but I love the question. I want to give people a little context, and you alluded
Sure.
to some of it, but I wear multiple hats. I currently am a faculty in residence at a fantastic place called Modern Elder Academy that hosts workshops for and online events for people navigating midlife transitions, and especially who want to grow in their capacity to access and express wisdom, the wisdom that they carry from their own story, but also other sources. I've been a meditation teacher for about 6 years, and part of my focus these days is teaching meditation in correctional facilities in the state of Wisconsin. And I'm a coach. I say coach, but I kind of feel that word like it doesn't really capture what I do or you or so many other people. There's definitely, in many ways, I'm a soul companion. I'm a spiritual guide. I provide support for people who are in a place of feeling stuck, lost, disoriented, overwhelmed, anxious, you name it. who've achieved great things, but sense that there's a new phase, a new way of being that's ahead of them, perhaps even a new dream for something. They're not clear on what it is. They don't really know how to get there, but they realize something has to change. And I help people cross that threshold from who they've been into who they're becoming. As a little more context, my background, I also have a background in hospice care. I was a pastor and I did community development work among people dealing with homelessness and mental illness. Now, why do I share all this? It's not to say, oh, here's my amazing credentials, but it is to tell people, leading into what I feel is most important right now, is that the most critical thing. So, being in all these spaces has shown me, taught me, clarified for me, and called me forward into what I believe is the most important thing people ought to be up to right now, which is going within,
Mm.
going inside of themselves, cultivating their interior life. And I realize that we're in the midst of so many changes and challenges right now. In the late 80s, there was a term coined, and then it was picked up by the US Army, I believe. But the abbreviation is VUCA. We're in a VUCA time: V, volatility; U, uncertainty; C, complexity; A, ambiguity. We're all feeling this to some extent
Oh
in
yeah.
our work, in our life. I mean, obviously, there's AI, there's global conflict, there's economic questions, all that. I don't need to get into it. But what I want to urge people is, and this isn't disengaging from the realities and the changes. And by the way, do learn AI and learn it with Amber in terms of how to use it for your business. But the invitation, that the thing that's most critical is tending to your heart, is going within, where you can unlock the wisdom that you carry and develop that center of gravity so that you can move through the world with a clear sense of identity and purpose that is not only going to make you feel more alive and live with greater joy, have a bigger impact, experience more creativity, but this is the thing that's going to transform the community around you and the world. So that's what's on my heart to share, and I will share that message anytime anyone asks.
So I was pulling up your book, which I mean, a lot of people ask me to read their content, like a lot, so many that I can't possibly get to it all. And I'm a really slow reader because I like to really cherish each word and soak it in. And I'm not just reading it through the lens of somebody who's, launched over 1,000 books. It's through a personal lens too. It's through a strategic lens. It's so I'm a slow reader.
Mhm.
And I have to tell you, I started your book on a plane ride and I thought maybe I'll read the first chapter, see how it goes. And I just kept going and going and going because Ben is so good and unique at storytelling that it just carries you through the words. And I wanted to share one of the underlying passages that I had because it really spoke to me on this plane ride. And it said, "This invitation is the call to adventure. It is life's way of expelling us from the school of duties and obligations that have restricted us from growing and changing. It is the sounding of an alarm urging you to exit the outdated version of your life." Whew, love that.
Mhm.
Whether it arrives in whispered warnings or the clashing sound of everything falling apart, this is how the way home begins. Answering
Mhm.
yes to this call is the first step. It gets me emotional just reading that again because then I was the person that said, everything's fine. Fine, fine, fine. Nothing to see here. And I believed it. I actually believed it. And, I disregarded the extreme amount of frustration that I felt every day, and it was like, oh, it's just today, or oh, I'm just tired. Tomorrow will be different. And I almost refused to see the meta pattern of it all, that it was not just
Mhm.
every once in a while, it was every day that I was processing this extreme frustration in my life. But on the outside, I had it all. And I thought, how can somebody be ungrateful for having it all? You know, it felt selfish and wrong to be frustrated every single day. So I would just ignore it, avoid it, justify it, and think secretly something was really wrong with me. And so when I read that, it's funny because it's funny, not funny, but in 2022, at the end of 2022, It was the clashing sound of everything falling apart in my life. And, there are people that know pieces of the story. You happen to know more than most. And at some point, I will share it when it feels relevant to share instead of me just like sharing my story to,
Yeah.
for some
Yes.
selfish purpose. But I can just validate that I work with people all day long who have the whisper. Some it's that clashing bang and they're still not listening to it because they can't recognize it. And I'm over
Mhm.
here like, please don't go to the limits that I did. Don't
Yes.
go. It's terrible. So what do you have to say to all of that? I mean, anything you want to expand on?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really think the call to adventure, it as that passage outlines, um, it really does. I think it begins with a whisper. It begins with a whisper. But when we're so busy, when we're so attached to the way we show up in the world, when we are chasing after whatever different thing it might be, achievement, perfection, the approval of others, control, whatever identity we cling to, when we're so committed to that, we just keep suppressing those little whispered warnings that come our way that are inviting us to another way, which by the way, we're not sure what that way is, but they're definitely saying this operating pattern, it isn't working anymore.
Yes.
So we get very accustomed to a type of like a formulaic living. Now, someone like you and many other just high performing leaders are used to um, like a lot of change. Like you're adapting constantly in your professional life. You're ahead of the curve on so many things, and so many other people. Oh, I'm doing this. I'm creating that. I'm starting that. Launching this. So what happens though is we get kind of caught up in the illusion that we are changing when in fact the change I'm referring to is what needs to take place within us. Perhaps all the activity up here, hey, that's just busyness. That's just keeping us distracted. And as we keep doubling down on that pattern, like you experienced and what I experienced in my own journey, is we become further estranged from who we really are, which then means what? Well, those things that we think are our superpowers, we start to get depleted. And what we're offering is not the fullest expression, it's not the most generative contribution we can make. So, what I say to people, well, how do I hear the call to adventure? Or how do I respond to it if I know when's coming? My book gets into all the other signals and ways that it might be coming to you. But there's a few phrases that just stick with me, and it's slow down,
Hmm.
get quiet, which is something my wife said to me, which I'll clarify, it's not be quiet, it's a little different, but get quiet. She has said that to me probably too. And also go within. Like that formula, and how do we do that? Well, it's practices, and that's what I love accompanying people. Come alongside people, help them cultivate their specific set of practices and see them not as little things that help me just reduce stress, but they're actually these activities that help us reconnect with our heart and reclaim that sense of self.
Why do you think people are so avoidant to go within? Now, I'm speaking to one segment of the population, of course, not all, but I've noticed even in what you call subtraction, right? So making space.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I tried to ask a group of people to do that yesterday, and you'd think that I was asking them to give me the keys to their home or something. I'm like, just make 5 hours a week of space. And it was like, I felt the energy of like, but no, who am I going to be? What am I going to do with that time? And I remember that so well. I mean, that's how I opened my
Yes.
book, Infinite Impact, was my mentor, Ken, saying, Amber, why do you think you're so busy? And I thought that was the dumbest question, like completely irrelevant. Like, what is he talking about? I want to
Yeah.
maximize my potential, Ken. That's why.
Yeah.
But looking back on it now, I can see that it was because I didn't know what to do with that extra space. But this was not a conscious awareness.
Yeah.
So I'm curious in your line
Yep.
of work,
Yep.
how do you convince, invite, educate, inspire somebody to actually let go of that first moment of control? Because once they do, they can start to see the benefit of it. But man, that first moment, they're like clenched. How do you?
Yes. Oh, that's such a good observation. So the first thing that comes to mind, and people might be watching this and they're like, "What are they even talking about?" I always like to say, if this isn't resonating, if this isn't ringing a bell, none of this matters until it matters. So perhaps this isn't for you, or the timing isn't right now. I do think There will come a day soon where you will sense that invitation, and it'll probably get louder
Yeah.
to go in. Okay, but that's one thing. I think reasons why. Um, well, a lot of people that I work with um, they're very high functioning. They're achievers. They're performers. They accomplish kind of anything they set their mind to. They're masters. This is a terrain for which they are not yet masters. So that feels intimidating, that whole
Mhm.
process of developing a beginner's mindset. And that's something we talk about the Modern Elder Academy a lot. I mean, you could be, someone could be in midlife, they could be in their 60s, they could be retired. And one of the most beneficial things they can do to step into that next chapter is embrace a beginner's mindset. And the same thing is true for what we're talking about here in terms of going within. Another key point of resistance is um, well, like what you said is my life is great. Like I should be great. I should be grateful for what I have. And looking around at the world, I'm not in pain and suffering to the degree that others are. And
Mhm.
yet there is a simmering form of suffering that is our own, that if we don't tend to that pain, we will pass it on to our children, to our loved ones, to our community. So there's that piece, and then I think one of the really big ones is, I mean, it's who am I without this identity? Say, which I often talk about as the masks I wear. If I'm achiever and I go at this pace and I remove that mask, who am I, and what am I going to find down there? There's going to be grief. There's going to be untended wounds. There's going to be shadowy parts of yourself that you are unaware of or haven't explored. So, and that is a lot. But when you go within, you actually, I guarantee you, with time, you will discover that you have the resources within you to hold all that, to tend to it, to transform it into something that comes out of you as light and love and creativity and, a generative expression.
Yes. Yes to all of that.
Mhm.
See why I like Ben. I think I was probably at the end of the day most afraid, surprised, which surprised me, but I was most afraid of losing a stronghold on my income. Because if I had built my company based on that, I'll do anything, I'll over deliver, and I will, like, I'm your get it done girl. I mean, people called me that for years. And I thought, if I'm not that driver, high achiever, over deliverer, who would
Yeah,
I be? And will people still value me? And I didn't
yeah,
have an answer to that then, even
yeah,
though I had hundreds of love letters and testimonials and all the things, I still didn't believe it because I had a different belief deep down that the only
mm,
reason people valued me was because of that way of being in the world. And that's what my mom modeled to me. And I didn't
yes,
I didn't have any other resource around it. And even if somebody would have told me, like Ken did, Amber, the more time you have in your calendar, the more you let go, the more money you're going to make, or the happier you will be. And I was like, you are full of it. There's no way that's right. And my brain would not accept that truth. But
mm,
why I'm bringing it up is because I can now share all of these years later that my income wasn't rocked. My business only grew stronger. My offerings only grew better. And I only made more profit, which meant more impact. And I still, to this day, can't explain to you how that's even possible, because on the inside, I mean, I talk about it like there was a nuclear bomb that went into my belief system, and I've been methodically rebuilding my belief system, so that I could have choice on my own beliefs. Why would I choose to have
yeah,
a belief that people only value me when I'm basically killing myself to get that
yes,
reward? I would never choose that. But letting go of that and saying, no, I can do a reasonable amount and people are still going to value me. And I chose that. But you have to choose it before you can see the outcome of it. And that's what
yeah,
my
yes,
poor coach, Dimitri, he was so patient waiting for me to choose it to then see the impact.
yeah,
Yeah, I took a
yes,
hard path. But speak into that a little bit more, and like
yeah.
the other rewards of that.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You can't see what's in the next room of your life without leaving the one that you're in, and it's so
Oh,
common for all sorts of reasons. It's so common, fear especially, but to just we want that clarity so desperately about what's next, and that's why we end up hanging on to our current
yeah,
surface situation far past its expiration days because we really want some kind of guarantee. But what you are talking about is just a fundamental shift that took place in your story and that I see in with the people I accompany. It's, that sense that of moving your definition of self and self-worth and from that external reference point to internal, like you came home to yourself. And this is an ongoing practice for all of us, is how can I keep coming back home to myself? How can I keep discovering more and having an allegiance to my heart above all, and find out that at the core, I I am loved, but also I am love, and that actually makes me not someone who is needy in the sense that I need the external validation, or I need my income to be a certain way, or I need all these things to go properly. It's this coming home to ourselves. When this happens, and it can manifest itself in all sorts of different ways in our lives. It's really hard. It's really hard to believe when you're a striver that. I mean, it's really easy to think when you're a striver that your success is directly dependent on the effort you put in and the skills that you have. But when you come to your heart, it's a whole different formula. It's a whole different way of being that is we actually realize, oh, wait a minute. Um, it hasn't all been about me. The universe, God, spirit, soul, however you want to talk about that, is in my favor, is cooperating with me. There's co-creation that's happening. And so actually, and this is what I found as a recovering striver, the less I do, the more I achieve. And I don't mean I'm just like sitting on a couch, but what also I mean is like the
yeah,
work I'm doing is flowing from a deeper place.
yeah.
It feels more effortless, and its impact is greater. And so you
Mhm.
start finding, coming back to another door metaphor, but doors. Joseph Campbell, who I engage with his work in my book, he says, when you follow your bliss, basically, doors will open where there were no doors. So you've been knocking on all these doors trying to make stuff happen, and you knock some down. That's a lot of work. That's exhausting. That's not sustainable. What if you have a shift? You go inward, reclaim your heart. What happens then? Well, you start seeing the doors are flying open, and they're opening at just the right time. Very often, just the right time. But you get used to the just the right time part of it. And you've helped me see that too, by the way, with some of my, in terms of stretching me in my business capacity. I kind of want, well, can I guarantee that this thing I'm doing is going to work out this way? And you're like, well, Ben, actually, it's the last week you're going to see these things happen. So, anyways, that lesson is coming back to me through you as well.
Oh gosh, it's so much. Well, so first, what comes up for me is that saying that says, leap and the net will appear. And it is terrifying to do that if you're me. I'm a big scaredy cat. I mean, I am very confident. And listen, I move through my fear. I don't care what the fear is, I will move through it. But it doesn't mean I'm not a big scaredy cat, because I am. I am terrified, and then I still move through it.
Yeah.
So I can validate that the net will not appear in the perfect position coaxing you forward. That's not how this works. You have to jump off the cliff and just trust, and then it will hold you. And I have
Yes.
learned that so many times in so many ways. So that's number one. Number two, I
Mhm.
want to validate that how I talk about it, even though like it's kind of a funny way to say it, but I really feel like I'm in a love affair with myself right now. And it's such a wonderful, awesome relationship. Whereas before, I was focused externally because I didn't want to look too deep
Yes.
in there. Now, because I'm not afraid, and I've seen through the well, and I know what's in there, and I've been spending that time healing, so completely validating your work of going within. On the other side, it just feels like I'm so happy to be free. I'm so happy to just feel this natural energy
Mhm.
flow. I mean, even as I'm talking about it, my
You're
heart
alive,
is like,
alive.
"Ah." and and only because I did that work did the
Mhm.
door appear for Align Entrepreneurship, which I know is still a newer offering, but like it's my best stuff. And it's even better than I thought that it could have been, imagining pieces of it. And I know that there's still more beyond this for me. And now I can be excited about that and not
Mhm.
worried or any of those things. So
Yes.
I'm validating the different phases of your work because I've lived it. And with that, Ben, I'm hoping, like, let's spend a minute talking about the journey within, because one of the reasons I brought you here at this specific moment is because you've designed this group container to thoughtfully and carefully curate, facilitate this room to help people with this journey at the one of what I believe is the most critical time in humanity to do this work. So
Yes.
normally I don't do sales pitches on here, but I really want people to understand the value of this work and doing this container with you. So whatever you feel to share about it.
Yeah, thank you. And I can't answer this without first speaking to what you just shared,
Yeah,
because
please.
it's so beautiful. You know, we were talking a bit about the resistance people might have that's around, well, my life's really good. I should be grateful. Parallel to that is a sense of it's selfish. There's so much
Mm,
going on right now. So much going on and so much pain and
right.
sorrow and brokenness and conflict. Like I got to get out there. I got to do something about that. I know. So my whole background before I sort of burned out, lost my heart, I was helping people deal with addiction, mental illness, women exploited in prostitution, um, all these different things. But I lost myself in it. And going on this journey inward to reclaim my heart was the most important thing I could do, because why? It transformed me so that, yes, like you, having this massive amount of self-love, but true self-love doesn't stay stuck, it flows out. And so I can attest to feeling that as someone who's worked with you, like that, the fact that you love yourself, like that impacts everything you do. It comes through loud and clear and people feel it, and it wakes something up in other people. It invites us to that sense of belonging and connection with one another. So I just want to affirm that. And that's, this can sound to a lot of people in certain contexts like kind of abstract, kind of out there work sometimes. But given, my decades of experience really in this space of developing and cultivating the inner life, I'm and through my own practice, like I know how to support people and make like this kind of mystical out there stuff very practical. And that's what I'm doing with this Journey Within program. Thanks for letting me chat about it for a second. I've been coaching people one on one for the last couple of years. We're talking about recovering strivers, or maybe potentially recovering strivers, people who want to be moving from their allegiance to success and achievement and performance and pleasing others and all these masks we wear, and move into a fuller, freer version and expression of who they are. And so the work that I do with people, it has ramifications for what I say the surface level of your life, relationships and work and finances and all that. But the critical commitment that we make is that it all begins not up here by, say, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, but it involves going within, reconnecting with that sense of self, and then experiencing transformation there, with which, as we've been talking about, radiates out in every way. Now, how do we do that? Well, practices are critical. So I help people with things like meditation and journaling and reconnecting with nature, things that, by the way, like you can do anytime, but having some structure and support around it,
That's
and
the
see
key.
and
That's the key.
seeing, yes, and seeing it not as, and we've talked about this, like in the sort of wellness, mindfulness space, it can be really easy to treat it like a buffet, and I'm grabbing this and I'm grabbing that, and I'm grabbing this, but we get lost and we don't really know what it's all working towards.
Yeah.
So, this Journey Within is my first group offering, and that's powerful. And this is like bringing people together. Our stories and experiences will help transform one another's. So it's a container for transformation. It's a 4-week journey, starts October 10. And it's just a powerful, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We will have fun because I like, this is fun
He's
stuff.
a fun guy. I'll
In my
volunteer
mind,
for that. He's super
it's
fun.
it's like I'm all about gravity, like depth, intensity. We get into the stuff, but I'm also all about levity. It's another value of mine. So playfulness, this is part of transformation, embracing things with a childlike spirit. So there's a lot more I could say about it, but people can learn about it. I think you've been sharing the link, benjamincott.com/group. And I would love to connect with anyone who wants to learn more.
Yeah, and I just, I want to validate that it is hard to understand it until you're in it, right? So what I would say to people is if you feel the whisper or if you hear the banging like I did, either way, like as we've discussed, that intensity is only going to grow the longer you ignore it. So by all means, ignore, avoid, justify, like, or I did, but it's only going to get more painful for you where you're like clenching every day trying to get through your life. And it doesn't have to be that way. And what I
Yes.
recognized at the end of all of it is just, it was my perception that needed to be course corrected more than anything. So,
Yeah.
it's people still loved me. I still had money flowing. My family was safe. I was healthy, but my it was like almost like getting contacts for the first time. Whereas like it
Yeah.
was blurry before, now I can see clearly. And when you see clearly, it's like, oh my God, I can see clearly. It's like this
Yes.
joy that emanates from you. And
Yeah.
in a market right now of total fear, chaos, and uncertainty, with AI coming, displacement happening in big ways. I mean, we are on the brink of some epic change. And you know that, I know it. We all know it now. But what I'm curious about is how are you going to choose to live through that?
Mhm.
Right? Are you going to choose to drink more, eat more, sleep less, have affairs, gamble? Or what is your avoidance? What is your escape route going to be? Or do you want to say, gosh, I don't want to choose those things. There must be another way. Well, there's this way. This is an invitation that will always be here for you. And this is a way where you don't have to choose those other things and you can stay married. You
Yeah.
can, be a better parent. It impacts positively all areas of your life and especially in your business. It's going
Yeah.
to give you the competitive advantage. You're an employee, it's going to help you to adapt and level up your skill set so that you can stay relevant in the marketplace. So there's only benefit here, but you're going to have to just jump in with both feet and say, I want to experience a different way than what I've been living. And that's
Yes.
why I'm spending so much time here with Ben, because although I didn't go through his particular curriculum and work, I've been through the work. And now that I know Ben, I want to stay very closely aligned with him so that I can continue to do the work with him, and alongside him as I continue to grow and evolve, because I'm not slowing down, folks. I'm going for it in this lifetime. And so has Ben. So well, thank you for sharing your heart with us. Any last words? I know I'm keeping you over time, so hopefully you're not late
Oh,
for
I thought I was keeping you over time. Yeah, I have one last thing, and thank you for all that. What I didn't mention about this is, like, the fact that we're resonating and we've had some shared experience, that's not unique because this is essentially something that everyone goes through. And here's what I mean. I mean,
anything.
Joseph Campbell, with his hero's journey, he was identifying this storyline across time and place. He saw it in myths and religious traditions and rites of passage and all these things. And as I talk about that pattern, there's three aspects: leaving the familiar, falling into the unknown, and so learning how to navigate that, and rising to wholeness or rising to aliveness. And if we can get acquainted with this pattern, which is what I explore in my book, and we get even deeper into in the journey within coaching program, if we can get, like, it gives us this context, so we can locate ourselves on this map, say, here's where I am. Oh, it's so good, I'm not alone, I'm not the first one. And that gives us the courage to take that first step, to answer the call, and to do the work of letting go, and to learn how to befriend the darkness, and to clarify what our gift is, and on and on and on. So I just wanted to add that, there's this powerful pattern that we're all living, and once we get clarity about that, we see how it is in our relationships, in our individual lives. We see it in our work that helps us go about our work with, an expanded capacity. So that's why I love it so much. I've lived it, I've seen it, benefit others, and just thanks for letting me chat with you. It's a lot of fun.
Wow. Well, I'm so grateful again that you are going through the hardships of entrepreneurship as we all do. Entrepreneurship's not easy for anybody. I have such tremendous respect for entrepreneurs, but I just appreciate that you're willing to go through those pieces to get this, this message out in a broader way and to invite people into it. I think that's really important. And I'm hoping for all of you listening, that you can take something from that courage and, Ben's willingness to be so transparent about his own journey, visibility, and just creating these containers to help as many people as possible in a time of great need. And whether this is for you and you want to reach out to Ben and set up a call just to get to know each other and see if there's a fit here, or somebody in your life that has been suffering in silence, as Kathleen Flanagan shared with me. I just love that phrase. It
Yeah.
just resonates so deeply with me. You never know. Just float Ben's work their way, especially if they are hovering in and around that midlife or even late stage awakening, because we all need help. And this whole culture of like me, myself, and I, and isolation and disconnection, like enough of that,
Yes.
please.
Yes.
So those are my parting words. Enough.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. This has
Yeah.
been such a delight. Yeah, another way to frame all this is just to invite people to, it's like, claim your wisdom. We need a wise world right now. I mean, knowledge is everywhere with AI. What we need is the way to handle, interpret. What do we do with that? Do we have how do we
Mhm.
handle that and bring it forward for not only our own benefit, but the benefit of others?
Yeah.
We could keep talking like all day. This is
I
fun,
know. I know. Okay.
but we gotta go.
Yes. Well, everyone, you have the information. Feel free to reach out to Ben directly, and we will see you on the next episode of the Elevate series. Thank you so much.